Welcome to this video on custom theme development. We're going to be looking at how we can build a contact form from scratch. We'll be adding a basic contact form without using a plugin. We're just going to use HTML and PHP for form handling. Here I'll guide you step by step how to add a basic form to a WordPress block theme without using any plugins, just HTML and PHP for form handling. When you build custom WordPress block themes, especially if you're using the Create Block Theme plugin, adding a basic form requires a few considerations. Since block themes are built with full site editing, your approach will depend on whether you want the form to be inserted into the page or post via blocks, inserted as a template part, or hard-coded into a custom block or template. Here we'll look at how we can create the form HTML as a shortcode. We'll handle the form submission with PHP, and we'll redirect users to a thank you or error page. We'll also be adding some styling. When you use the shortcode method for adding a form into WordPress, it has several benefits, especially in a custom block theme where you're trying to avoid plugins and want more flexibility. Here's a breakdown of the advantages. Simplicity and control. You write pure PHP and HTML and have full control over the form's structure and functionality. This makes it easy to debug and extend because everything will be located in your functions.php or some other file that you manage. Your form will work in any content area. You can insert the form into any post, page, or custom post type just by using the shortcode. This will not require JavaScript or any sort of block registration to work. Your form will be theme agnostic. Unlike block-based solutions, the shortcode will work across themes, not just block themes. The shortcode will still work as long as the functions are carried over. You'll have no visual editor bloat. This keeps the block editor clean. You avoid dealing with custom block JavaScript, block previews, or serialization issues. Your form is reusable anywhere. Shortcodes are reusable across the entire site. You can use the same contact form on multiple pages without rewriting or duplicating code. Your form will be compatible with server-side logic. Form processing, email, validation, and redirection happens in PHP, which is more reliable for front-end only solutions. This is a great solution for rapid prototyping. It's ideal if you're building quickly, you want to test form logic, or you don't need the form to appear as a visual block in the editor. When shortcodes might not be ideal is if you want a block style UI that your clients and editors can drag and drop or customize. If you want a real-time preview of the form in the block editor. And if you need reusable styled components that integrate tightly into the block system. Knowing these things, we'll go ahead and build out a shortcode form. Later on, we'll be building out a custom block to use as a form as well, so you can compare and contrast the advantages and disadvantages. Let's jump into our code and get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Pages and I'll build out a thank you page. This is going to be the page that users will see once they've successfully submitted the form. I'm just going to make a simple title and a message. I'll go ahead and click Publish so that this page is now live. It is worth mentioning that in order for this to work, you want to be aware of the slug. As you can see, my slug is thank-u and it's all lowercase. We're going to need to use this in our code, so make sure you make a note of the slug of this particular page. In addition to this page, I'm also going to create an error page. So I'll go ahead and make that now. Once again, I'm going to give this page a name and I'll write a short message. The slug for this page is simply error. Now I'm going to publish this page. And now I'm ready to get working on the form. In order to build the form out, we're going to need to modify some of our code-based files. I'll go into the code portion of my theme file, and we're going to start off by working on our functions.php file. We've already added some custom functions, so I'm just going to come down to the bottom of the page. I'll hit some returns, and I'm going to make a comment. I'll title this Custom Form for Contact Page. Then we're going to go about adding the code that we'll need in order to make this work. We'll begin by creating a function. I'm going to call my function VA Custom Theme Contact Form Shortcode. The function needs to have a unique name, as this will define the function. We're going to use this to generate and return the HTML for our contact form. The next line of code that I'm going to add is going to be OB_start. This starts output buffering. This means any HTML that's printed after this will be captured into memory instead of being directly sent to the browser. This is important because WordPress shortcodes must return a string, not just echo HTML. The next line of code is where I'll begin my form tag. For the action attribute, I'll set the value using PHP. We're going to echo and grab our admin URL, and then we're going to use admin-post.php. What this does is it will submit the form to WordPress's admin-post.php file, which is designated to handle custom form submissions. If you go to your WordPress install directory, you'll find a WP admin folder, and inside that folder is the admin-post.php file. This comes pre-installed with WordPress. It's not something that we have to create. So we're just going to harness the power of this so that this can be used to handle our form submissions. We need to wrap this inside of escape URL. This simply sanitizes the URL output for safety. This part of the code, admin_URL and then admin-post.php, gives you the full URL for the form processing endpoint. We need to be using a method of post. This will ensure that the form data uses post. This is safer than using get. And we're using a class of contact form. This will allow us to hook this particular item so that we can customize the way it looks with our own CSS. Next, I'll add the input fields that I want to include within my form. I'm going to ask for the user's name, and I'll assign a placeholder of your name. I'm going to ask for their email and assign a placeholder of your email. And I'm going to make a text area where I'll ask them to enter their own custom message. Each of these fields is going to be required. Because I'm not using labels, I'm just going to use the placeholder attribute to give the user information as to what content I'm hoping to get from the form fields. After you've entered your form fields, you're going to make another input element. This is going to have a type of hidden. This hidden field is what tells WordPress what to do when the form is submitted. The value of VA Custom Theme Contact Form connects the submission to a specific handler function, which we're going to define elsewhere. WordPress is going to use the value of this hidden input to decide what function to run. Finally, we'll need a submit button. So I'm just going to create a button with a type of submit, and I'll have the text display as send. And then I'm going to close out my form element. The next thing that we need to do is we need to restart or reopen PHP. So I'm going to use an opening PHP tag, and then we're going to type return ob_get_clean. ob_get_clean returns everything that was output between the ob_start and now. So this will actually become the shortcode output. This will also clear the buffer so that nothing is accidentally echoed. Return will send the HTML string back to WordPress so that it can be inserted wherever we use our shortcode. After my closing curly brace for the function, I'm going to use add shortcode, And then we're going to pass in the parameters of VA contact form and VA custom theme contact form shortcode. The VA contact form parameter is registering the shortcode within WordPress. Anytime we use VA contact form in a post, a page, or the block editor, this function will run and insert the necessary HTML. So this code is going to allow us to register a shortcode that we can use in WordPress content. It will output a fully functional contact form. It's going to route the form submission to a custom PHP function via WordPress's admin-post.php system, and it keeps everything clean, reusable, and easy to style. The next step is to make the form actually send an email or save data. In order to do this, we need a handler function. I'll make a new comment, and then I'm going to go ahead and begin by creating a new function. I'll assign a name of VA custom theme handle contact form, and then I'll open and close my curly braces. All this does is define our new function, and this function will handle the logic when your contact form is submitted. Inside of the function, we're going to start off by creating a conditional statement. What this does is it will go ahead and check to see if the form field exists in the post request. We're telling it to look for name, email, and message. It will also check to see if the email is valid using isEmail. This is a WordPress helper function, and this will prevent empty or invalid form submissions. Inside the curly braces, we're going to sanitize the input. These functions are going to sanitize user input for safety. The sanitize text field will remove unwanted characters from a text string. Sanitize email will validate and clean the email address. Sanitize text area field is safe for multi-line input like message box. This will prevent malicious code from being injected into your site. The next thing that we're going to do is we'll compose and send the email. This will go ahead and create an email subject of new contact form submission. It will also create a body with the user's info and message. It's going to print their name, their email, and their message. This next line of code is using WP Mail. This is WordPress's built-in function for sending emails. You will need to replace you@example.com with your real email address. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the redirect on success. So this will redirect the user to the thank you page on successful form submission. Home URL gets the full URL of the site and appends thank you. So this will load our thank you page. Exit is critical to stop PHP execution after the redirect. Outside of this curly brace, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our redirect on failure. So this looks similar to what we had before, but we're going to redirect to our error page instead. So if some sort of validation failed, like missing fields or an invalid email, this line will redirect the user to an error page. Once again, we need to exit in order to stop the PHP execution after a redirect. The last lines of code that we need to add are going to connect the form to the handler. We're going to use add action hooks to do this. These lines hook your handler function into WordPress's form processing system. The admin post is going to trigger when user is logged in. The admin post no priv, etc. triggers when user is not logged in. These two lines of code are the WordPress action hooks that connect your custom contact form submission handler function to WordPress's built-in form processing system. These lines register your form handler function of a VA handle contact form, and we're telling it to be executed when WordPress receives a post request from a form where we have our hidden input HTML element. This basically is going to tell WordPress what function to run when a form is submitted using this particular action name. This line of code is going to be triggered when the user is logged in, so it handles logged in users form submission. And this line of code is going to be triggered when users are not logged in, which will handle guest or anonymous submissions. Both of these together will ensure that our form is going to be processed no matter who's submitting it, whether they're logged in or not. So between this code chunk that we just created in our functions file, we're going to validate and sanitize the form data. We're going to send an email to our desired email address. We're going to redirect the user to a thank you or to an error page. And we can rest assured that this is going to work for all users, whether they're logged in or not. Now that we have these functions added to our functions.php, I'll save the file. We'll return to WordPress. I'm going to go ahead and open the page where I want to insert the form. So I will do this on my contact page. And you can see that I already have a section called Send Us a Message. And then I have some notes that say Build Form here. So this is where I want to insert my form. I'm going to get rid of these things right here. This was just reminding me about the fields that I wanted to include. So I'll delete those. And what we'll do here is we'll insert a shortcode. I'll type /shortcode so that I can grab the shortcode block that comes with WordPress. And then we're going to just go ahead and add a shortcode block. The shortcode block that we need to use is going to be inside of square braces, VA_contact_form. Now I'll simply save the page. And if we go to the front end section of WordPress and visit our contact page, you're going to see that we do have our form. Now at this point, our form is not very pretty, but the elements are here. We have an area where the user can add their name, their email, and their custom message, as well as send the form. Let's go ahead and let's add some styles so that we can make this look much better. I'm going to place my styles in my style.css file. We've already created some custom styles for navigation, so I'm just going to go underneath this section and I'll make a new comment that these are my contact form styles. When we created our HTML for our form, you may have recalled that I did assign a class of contact form to the form element. I'm going to use that as a hook. So we'll go ahead and type .contactForm. I'm going to tell this to display as flex. I want flex direction to be one column, so all my elements stack vertically. I'm going to add a gap of 1 rem, and I'll set the maximum width to 600 pixels. Next, I'm going to go ahead and target both my contact form input and text area elements. We're going to go ahead and add some padding. I'm going to set my font size, and I'm going to go ahead and set my font family. For my font family, I could just declare the name of the fonts. I'm going to go ahead and use a variable here instead of using a declared font family. This will just make my website a little bit more robust, so if any changes occur, this is going to update. I'm going to also go ahead and give my text area field a little bit more height by simply declaring the height of being 6 rems. And then we'll go ahead and we'll style the contact form button. I'm going to set the background color to my custom teal. Again, I'm using a variable instead of the straight hex value. The text color is going to be my light gray. I'm adding some padding. I'm setting the border to none, and I'm going to change the cursor to a pointer. I'll save this, and if we go back to the front end portion of WordPress and refresh our page, you're going to see that our form looks much better. So now we can come in and actually fill out the form. Keep in mind that if I try to send the form and I have not filled out all of the fields, I will get a built-in HTML5 error message, and this is because we made all of our form fields required. So I'll go ahead and add a message, and I'm going to click send. Now there appears to be a problem with the processing. As you can see, I'm not being redirected to my thank you page. So let's just go ahead and figure out what's going on. I'll click the back button for now. I'm going to go into my WordPress editor, and I'm just going to verify that my thank you page is using the correct slug. So I'll go ahead and open up my thank you page in a separate tab, and you can see here it is, and the slug does look correct. So let's go ahead and go back to our code and figure out what the problem is. Typically, this type of problem is probably something to do with our hidden input fields value and the actions that we're using later on in our form. I'm just going to collapse this so we can look at both of these together. You're going to see that I assigned a value of VA custom theme contact form. However, in my add action hooks, I'm using different handles. I'm using VA handle contact form, and you can see that's being used in both places. So we have two options here. We could go ahead and we could change our input field to have a value of VA handle contact form, and then we could just leave everything as is. Or if we want to use the value of VA custom theme contact form, then we would need to go into the add action areas, and we're going to need to update these portions of the code. So this is going to become admin post no priv VA custom theme contact form in this second parameter. This is going to need to be changed to VA custom theme handle contact form. The same thing's going to change down here. This is going to become VA custom theme handle contact form. And this line of code, admin post VA handle contact form, will change to admin post VA custom theme contact form. So whatever method you choose, you just need to make sure that this value is being used in your add action hooks. Let's save our functions file now. We'll return to the front end, and let me just go back to my contact page. I'm going to refresh the page. We'll fill out our form again. I'm going to send this. Now I get redirected to the thank you page as we would expect. If your website is being hosted on a live server, you would be able to log into your email program and you should receive the email. You will not be able to get this to work in a local environment by default because WordPress uses something called WP_mail, which is dependent on it being hosted live. However, if you are using local, which I am, you can go ahead and check to make sure that your form is working. If you use local, local has something built in called MailPit. MailPit is a developer-friendly local email catcher. It's modern and maintained, and it's easy to work with in development environments. Basically, what it does is it intercepts all your outgoing emails from your local WordPress website so you can see exactly what your form is trying to send. Let's go ahead and open up MailPit so we can see what this looks like. Here are the results of the form message that we just sent. My message says this is my second test message. We can click on this and we can fully read and look at how the form is going to be parsed and what it would look like if someone was to receive this email. If we go ahead and fill out the form again, this time I'll use a different name. I'll place a different message and email, and we'll go ahead and click send. As you can see, we're redirected to our thank you page. And if we go back to MailPit, here is our new form submission. So this allows me to fully be able to see if my form is being parsed correctly. And now that we fixed the issues we're having, it is. And anytime I want to be able to use this basic form on my website, all I need to do is enter the shortcode. If I wanted to have this form appear on other pages, I can just enter that shortcode and it will go ahead and populate. It is worth mentioning that when you do use a shortcode, you won't see the form inside of WordPress. This potentially could be a challenge. Some people do not like to see the shortcode text. They want to actually have a good idea of what the form is going to look like. If that is something that you do want to do, then obviously this is not the solution for you. I will be showing you a different way that you can add form elements into your project. This next method is going to be a little bit more involved, but the benefits will be that we will be able to see the form field inside of our pages. Needless to say, I hope you've enjoyed learning how you can create your very own form inside of WordPress, and you could fully customize this and add as many fields as you need or want. This does not require any use of plugins, and you are in full control.